What do you get when you combine simplified practice marketing, proven ROI strategy, and Van skate shoes? You get Mark Thackeray, of course. So lace up, grab your green smoothie, and get ready, because this is Dental Marketing Secrets. And this is Mark.
All right, guys, today I have Eric Miller with me on the show. Super excited to have him. We're going to be talking about how to treat your practice like an investment, but let me give you a quick background on Eric before we dive into this. Eric Miller has been in the financial planning industry for over 20 years. He is the co-owner of Econologics Financial Advisors and the chief financial advisor. He has a degree from Capital University and is a registered financial consultant and licensed insurance agent. He takes pride in helping practice owners become the financial heroes of their own stories, and has taken this passion to over 600 families in the past decade. During this time, he's had over 15,000 conversations with practice owners regarding money, investing, practice expansion, practice transitions, taxes, asset protection, estate planning, and probably a myriad of other questions as well. And just takes pride in helping them shape their financial attitude toward abundance. And I love that part, Eric. Actually, I wanted to stop right there and just say, I love this little line right here where it says helping practice owners, become their financial heroes of their own stories. That's something we talk a lot about the show, where from a marketing standpoint, we talk about making your patients the hero of the story, and I think that's cool. That's exactly what you're doing here with your clients who are practice owners. So very, very cool. Econologics Financial Advisors is an Inc. 5000 honoree for 2019 as one of the fastest growing companies in the United States. Eric, welcome to the show, my man.
Thanks, my friend. It's good to be here. And man, with all that you said, you'd figure I'd be tired, but I'm not. I'm ready to go.
I know. Well, it's awesome to have someone with that depth, and experience. And so that's what I'm eager to ask you some questions about that. So as we mentioned before, the topic for today is how to run your practice like an investment. But before we dive into that, I had a few other questions I wanted to ask you. First off, I know you've been doing this for over 20 years, but what was it that first got you interested in financial planning?
Oh, well, I always wasn't a financial advisor, but I always just took a liking to it. And I worked for a mutual fund company for, a number of years, but there came a point in time, I think it was like in 2008, where I just decided, look, I want to do three things. I want to really help business owners or practice owners with their personal finances, because I just felt like they were being underserved, and I wanted to make a meaningful difference with them. I just didn't want to sell insurance or investment products. And then the other decision was that I really had to believe in the kind of care of the people that I was working with, because obviously in working with people, you want to make sure that they're creating good products and good effects on others. And that was pretty important to me. I just didn't want to work with everyone. And that really led us into working with private practice owners, specifically dentists and physical therapists and veterinarians and such, because those are really staples of the community. And those are people that deserve help and that they need help. And as I said before, I just found they were wildly underserved financially. They were following a lot of cookie cutter financial advice. No one was really helping them, figure out, how do I translate all this practice success that I'm having into personal financial success without just dumping all my money in a 401k plan and, trying to buy the biggest house that I can. So that's where it started, and that's where it stayed pretty true to that ever since then.
That's awesome. I love what you said there, to help make a meaningful difference in their lives, and that's the way I view marketing as well, where it's something that's going to produce results. We base all of our efforts on results that are tangible, that are applicable to their business, that really help them change their lifestyle, transform into the lifestyle that they're hoping for when they, that's what they desired, going into this profession. A lot of them, they had the passion to help people and treat them and care for them. But also just they need that balance, it needs to have that balance. Like you were saying too, where it's the practice, it's having success, but let's also help them financially and personally. with their financial success as well. So I think that's awesome. You actually answered my next question I was going to ask, which is what gets you most excited about helping practice owners? And I think you already answered that, but anything you'd add to that?
Yeah, I mean, again, to me, when you look at a practice owner, I mean, they're not just practice owners, they're executives, they're owners. You know, they have those three hats that they have to wear in their business. And it is, it's even more challenging because these are people that are trained just to be healthcare providers, to be doctors. That's where they got their training. They were never trained to be executives. They were never trained to be, how do I own a place? How do I come up with a mission statement? And, you know, what is this whole thing about EBITDA and practice value? And I don't understand. I just want to treat people, right? Exactly. And so, you know, I get a lot of satisfaction in helping those kinds of people because, I mean, look, it takes a lot of courage to be a business owner in today's environment. And so that's typically where I get most of the satisfaction, is just allowing people that are really artists when you look at it. I mean, dentists, I mean, you could say they're artists to that degree. Right. And the effects that they create amongst people to help them smile better and feel better about themselves. I want to support people that do that. And my area of expertise is showing that dentist how to run his household better, how to improve his financial condition measurably, so that he can put his attention towards expanding his business so he can help more patients. And that's really where it comes from.
That's so nice. Yeah, because once you provide that for them, then they can focus on what they do best, which is treating patients or treating animals if they're in the veterinary space. But that's tremendous. And that's a similar goal to what I have when I approach with clients and our team, is just what can we do to make their, to really allow them to do what they do best? How can we give them more of the time in the chair, for example, with patients, instead of trying to switch from one hat to the next, like you were saying before, going from an owner to executive to a marketer, to HR specialist, and trying, I mean, there's just so many things involved there. But what can we do to allow them more time with patients, and that's because that's what they do best. So I love that. So let's dive into this topic a bit. So Eric, if I've never heard of this concept before, where I'm treating my practice like an investment, what does that even mean?
Where does that come from?
Describe that to someone who's never heard that before?
Yeah, simple. So everyone has heard of the word economy. That's like, what is an economy? And the original derivation of the word economy actually means management of the household. It comes from the Greek oikonomos, which simply means the management of a household. So when you really look at it, the financial condition of a country is simply the sum total of all the households. So that's what we should address, is the household. And when you look at any big organization, so to speak, I mean, it's not, everyone thinks they're these big monoliths, but they're owned by individuals. Right. They're owned by households, right? So that's what we focus on is the household. And, to say it another way too, in corporate America, you'll hear this term called the parent company. Like, let's take Facebook. So Facebook owns, I think it's like up to 83 companies right now, although I heard they got in a little bit of trouble with owning Instagram and such. But at the end of the day, they own 83 different companies, and all of those companies are there to serve the parent company, which is Facebook. That's the parent company. Look at any big, Warren Buffett, anyone else, they have a parent company. So if you're a practice owner, your household is your parent company. And anything that you own, whether it's real estate, whether it's a practice, whether it's a 401k account or a bank account or another business, whatever it is simply there for the benefit of that parent company, which is the household. So that's the concept that I try to get through to practice owners, because most practice owners think their business is the most important thing in their lives. And I'm like, no, your household is the most important thing in your life. And making sure you structure your finances so that everything that you own is going for the benefit of the household is where that should start.
So it's to serve and support the household.
Yeah, because that's where all the goals and the purposes and the vision and what we want to do with our lives comes from. And the practice is simply going to be an engine of how to do that. So I think, it usually starts with most people, and why a lot of people struggle financially is because I ask them, like, what would your perfect financial life look like? I mean, I ask you, right? And most people have like varying answers, but I'll usually say this. I mean, if you had your ideal financial life, it would probably look like this. You would have an abundance of income coming in from multiple sources. You'd be free of all bad debt. You'd have passive income to pay for your lifestyle. Your assets would be protected from taxes, inflation, and lawsuits. Your business would be profitable, sustainable, and transferable. And you would have time to pursue whatever life goal that you had. I mean, I've been saying that for 12 years, and it never gets old saying that.
Yeah. I'm getting all excited.
Yeah, you're like, I like that too. I want that. So, but that's a goal for the household, and then the business is simply going to be a tool to be able to provide for that. Because, again, most practice owners, their business is their biggest investment. Like, there's nothing else that is providing as much cash flow as their business. So they have to treat it like that, like an asset of the household, and it needs to provide a certain value for them, for them to do other things that they want to do.
Right. So, okay. So from your perspective, Eric, what are most practices doing? Is it just that they're not taking enough time to think about it in this way, or they've never heard about this type of approach, or are they just so busy doing so many other things that it just goes by the wayside?
I think when you make a decision one day, oh, you know what, I think it'd probably be a pretty good idea if I just start a business. Mm-hmm. I want to open my own practice, and then all of what comes with that. You got to go get loans, you got to go hire people, you have to market, you have to go get patients. And I think over a period of time, you get so consumed and you get stuck in the business that you forget that you really need, how do I get out of this thing now? I created this thing, how do I get out of it? And that's the way to get out of it, is to set it up so that it can operate without you having to be there full time if you don't want to. But you have to take a different point of view than just saying, I'm going to sit here and just overwhelm myself with all the duties of business ownership and not work myself out. Right. And so, that's what usually ends up happening, is that the business will become more important. Practice owners don't pay themselves what they should. And it just starts a bit of a dwindling spiral where after, 10 to 15 years, you just have this guy that's just stuck in his business and can't go anywhere. And because he's been there to serve it, as opposed to setting it up for it to help serve his household. And that's kind of a simplistic way to put it. I mean, but that is a result that we tend to see quite a bit.
So what are those initial steps to get someone to take, to start adopting that mindset? I mean, it's certainly it's a whole paradigm shift for some of these people that have just, they're just used to doing what they do because frankly, it's easier than to stop and really reconsider how to do things.
To me, it just starts with getting a plan for the household. What is my financial plan? Not a proposal. What's my plan for the household? How many income streams do I want to build? What is my overall target of how much in assets I want to accumulate? When do I want to get myself free of debt? What are this is where it starts, is like, what's my plan for the household? Okay. And once you do that, then you can say, okay, for me to do all these things, my business needs to contribute to that. And here's how much it needs to contribute for me to satisfy the goals and purposes of the household. So to me, it just starts with a plan at the household level. And that's where you can start now, setting targets, having measurable statistics that you can use to measure your household financial progress. I mean, I asked practice owner, you can go ask some of your clients, like, hey, how do you measure your financial success? Mm-hmm. And most of them are going to say, well, I look at my bank accounts or my latest statement on my mutual fund or brokerage account, and those aren't statistics. Those are simply statements on an account that you have. Those aren't like actual statistics. Like, in marketing, you have statistics that you probably utilize to measure that.
Yeah.
And a big missing piece for most practice owners is having household financial measurements to measure what their progress looks like. And, again, these are all missing pieces that most people don't have.
Right.
And you can see why a majority of people have, and dentists tend to do pretty well, but they still have loads of debt. They still, over speculate in their investments. They pay way too much in taxes because they're not running their household like a business. And that's really what it comes down to, is that you got to run your household like a business. And that's, to me, having a plan is where it starts.
Yeah. I'm just nodding my head this whole time because I think of marketing the exact same way, where if you don't have a plan, this is kind of the fun math for me, though. Once you have your plan and your vision, then it makes it easier to calculate, okay, what do I need? What does this tool or this engine, this practice have to generate to sustain my household or to sustain my lifestyle? And then it makes it so much easier than just trying to fly off the cuff and be like, oh, well, let's see what happens this year.
Let's just see what happens this year. I give a person a target every single year of how much revenue that they have to bring in. It's always more than what they think it is.
Yeah.
And then, what are you going to do to be able to achieve that? And you got to get better at marketing. You got to get better at promotion. You got to get better at selling, and you got to get better at delivering. And those are just, but look, if I wanted to play for the, for the Lakers, I'd need to practice every day. So, how good do you want to get? And I think that's where a lot of practice owners are really good at being practitioners, really good. They don't practice being good executives. They don't practice being good owners. And I think that's stopping a lot of them.
Yeah. So side question to that, Eric. If you're giving someone a target and it's way out of their comfort zone, it's got to be pretty neat to see those people that rise up to that. They just didn't realize that they had that in them to make it to that level.
It is, well, and I think there's two golden rules of income and expenses that I found over the years that are true. When I say golden rules, that seem to be like phenomenon that happen all the time. The first one is that any organization, any household, any government is going to try to spend every dollar that it makes and then some. It just seems to be that way. But it will also make the exact amount of money it thinks it needs to make to survive. Like, you give someone that challenge of, hey, look, man, we're going to take your house, your business, and your cars away unless you make this money. People kind of magically make the money to be able to cover that in most cases, you see. And so I think when you present that to somebody and say, look, here's your target of what you need to make, it's usually overwhelming at first, but it's also pretty amazing that when I go back with clients, maybe 2 or 3 years, and say, hey, remember when I gave you this target of how much we wanted you to make? And then I show them their tax return right now, and they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize that we actually made that target. And it may take a year or two, but when presented with a challenge, most people, especially dentists and practice owners, because they're overachievers, they like that game. And they'll hit it if they know what their number is. So I like giving people targets.
Yeah. And I love turning it into a game, the gamification of work and goals and targets and making it a fun pursuit,
If it's too serious, it's like, it won't happen. It just seems to be kind of one of those natural laws. Like, when you try so hard at something, then, sometimes you get the exact opposite result. So you just almost have to be a bit, make it fun and relaxed and loose and, still have a spirit of play with it. But yeah, it really is something that we found to be very effective. And again, it sounds kind of simple to say, but, I think a lot of practice owners, especially dentists, look, they don't like to be told what to do. And they certainly don't like when they don't like to be directed, but I think it's very valuable to have a boss, and because that boss is there to push you and hold you accountable and puts you like to say, look, I need you to do this year. And if you have someone like that, whether it's like a marketing consultant or a financial advisor, someone there that's there to like kind of like say, look, why don't you do this year?
Yeah.
And get out of your comfort zone and let's do this. Then there's a lot of value in that. Tons of value in that.
Oh yeah. That's what a coach brings to the table. I mean, you look at, I just read this book, and it talks about basically the importance of surrounding yourself with the right people. Great book by a business coach named Dan Sullivan. It's called Who Not How. But in it, he talks about Michael Jordan, who was, obviously arguably the best basketball player. In my eyes, definitely the best basketball player. There's no question to me. But he was, he was in the NBA for the first 6 years, and he was, by that 6th year, everyone knew he was the best, but he still couldn't make it past the first round of the playoffs. It wasn't until he got additional people on his team, Scottie Pippen, he had a personal fitness trainer coach, and then he had Phil Jackson and a coach to look and see where he was lacking and where the team was lacking for him to get those rings, and then they built the dynasty, and then the rest is, history. Is one of the most recognized athletes of all time because of that. But it wasn't just because of him. It was because he had access to those types of people who could ask the right questions. So
he broke your guys' heart 2 times, didn't he?
Oh, don't even get me started. I know. If we had any other time, we probably would have had at least 1 ring, but
yep.
Who knows if it'll ever come close again. But yeah, it was fun. It was good years for sure. But what are some of the first steps, would you say, to someone who's getting started in this, who say, okay, that makes sense. I hear what they're saying. I need to start treating this more as an investment. What's kind of the first couple of steps that you'd advise them to do? Maybe with the plan, or where would you start?
Oh, first thing I would do is I would set up an outside bank account, and every single week I would take 10% of whatever revenue I brought in from the practice that week, and I would put it in that, I call it a wealth storage account.
Mm-hmm.
That's for the benefit of the household.
Mm.
And that's the first thing I do with everybody. And because that's your owner compensation. That is your reward for the risk that you took to put that practice there.
Yeah.
Every business owner should do this, as far as I'm concerned. But that is your owner compensation. Look, you get paid as a practice owner, you get paid W-2 salary, you get, whatever other perks you get in owning the business. But that first 10% of practice revenue needs to go directly to the wealth storage account for the benefit of the household. And you do that when you first start out, you are golden. Yeah, you're just golden, because now you made it a habit. And as a practice gets bigger, and if you spend money on marketing, and if you grow your business and you're doing $1 million, $2 million, $3 million a year, you're siphoning off 100, 200, 300,000 in that account for the express purpose of, building other income streams for the household, not just, inside the business. That's easy. That's the first thing I do with everybody.
That's massive too. You just look at it, just the way you broke it down just barely. That little, it's seemingly insignificant, 10%, and some people might balk at that. Maybe it's different for person to person, but you see how that can accrue so quickly over the span of 10, 15 years.
Oh, everybody balks at it. It's wild too, because I'm like, why are you balking at it? I'm telling you to give yourself a raise. Like, well, I don't know, the business, I don't know if we can survive if we take that. I'm like, you'll survive. and you got to do it on a gradient, of course. I wouldn't start with 10%, especially if you've never done it before. Maybe start with 3 or 4 and then build up over time to get to the 10%. But once you get that in, it's locked in. Now it's like an expense of the business.
Yeah.
And once it's in, and it just creates so much abundance for your household that it's unexplainable, like what has happened with people when they've done that. Their mood changes. They feel better about owning the business now. They feel like the business is like serving them. They feel like all the work and effort they put in. It's not just a monetary thing. It's really like, God, it's almost spiritual to that degree, because it makes you feel like okay, this is why I did this, and I'm getting the reward of this right now. So it's an amazing thing. Like if you're not doing that, I would do that. Dentists should have no problem doing that. Dentists could probably do 20% if they wanted to, but 10% is usually the minimum I'd start with.
Yeah, it's amazing how you just, when you make that automatic and it becomes habitual, you don't even think about it. You know, I mean, it's not even factored in like, oh, I wish I had that extra 10%. Like, you just doesn't even enter the equation anymore.
Nope. And now you've put an expense on the business, and the business will make it to cover it. And that's how it works. And that's why it's like so valuable. And, you know, most people that are thinking right now, there's no way I could take 10% because I know, because you have too many other expenses right now that you deem as more important than paying yourself. So you just have to like slowly get out of that mindset and just put in the system so that you are paying yourself correctly. And it takes a little bit of time, but I had so many stories of people that had zero money in reserves, had zero money in savings or retirement plans or whatever it would be. 4 or 5 years later, you know, have over $1 million just by doing that one thing.
Wow.
So it's, you know, take away saving people money in taxes, take away, you know, all the other things that, you know, we can do. That thing right there alone is, you know, the return on just doing that one action is just exponential.
Oh, that's incredible. That is so powerful. And I love the mindset aspect of this too, where it just changes your mood. It changes your whole attitude towards the business, that it's really adopting that whole approach of, hey, this business is here to serve me. You know, it's not the other way around. You know, I'm not here to be chained to my chair, to be, you know, drilling and filling the rest of my life, but this is an asset that's designed to serve me. I think that's right. So powerful.
It is the game. Yeah, it really is the game. I mean, aren't you tired of being a slave? Who wants to be a slave? You know, I don't.
No, I hear you. So what common mistakes, this has already gone, I don't want too much longer, but yeah, let's, what are some of the mistakes that people make when they start trying to adopt this? You know, I mean, what are the common pitfalls that you see often from practice owners?
Just in general financially, or just trying to do the 10%?
In general, yeah, let's stick generally with this one.
Okay. Well, I think, they depend upon their accountants for tax planning. That's a big mistake that a lot of people make. And because accountants, most of them, I'm going to generalize, and I shouldn't do that, but most accountants I found are good intentioned people. They want to do good right by their clients, but they are mostly there to just make sure that you're compliant with the tax code and with filing. And they are not overly aggressive as far as minimizing your tax liability. So what ends up happening is that, you know, most dentists are paying probably $20,000 to $40,000 more in taxes than they should be. And because their accountants are either too nervous to take certain deductions or don't know enough about certain deductions because they're not combing the tax code all year round.
Right.
So I would really, you know, a big mistake is not having a tax strategist on your financial team and having someone that, you know, can give you other options on how to minimize your tax bill significantly. I'm not talking about just, you know, putting $5,500 into a health savings account. I'm talking about looking at some advanced tax strategies that may cost you some money to set up, but, you know, you're going to save 40, 50, 60, 100,000 in taxes by doing that. Because that's what, I mean, look, that's, you know, people complain about how much the president paid in taxes. Okay. He just used the tax code, and, you know, whether or not he did it illegally or legally, we'll find out, but he practiced tax avoidance, which is not illegal. Tax evasion is illegal. Tax avoidance is not illegal. So I think that's a big mistake, is you're depending upon your accountant for your tax planning, and that gets a lot of people definitely in trouble. And
I didn't recognize that either. You know, I mean, you think of an accountant, you think, okay, well, they know all the rules and they're going to steer me in the right direction. But the way you just described, Eric, they are not those ones that are constantly looking at these codes and regulations and all the changes that are constantly happening. So that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and to piggyback on that, I would say that when you're working with an advisor, and not to toot my own horn, but I really believe that you got to work with a financial advisor that understands how important your business is and understands how to show you how to set up the right system so that money is transferring to the household correctly. And I see a lot of dentists that are working with advisors, Merrill Lynch advisors or Edward Jones or Ameriprise or whoever. I mean, they're there just to sell you your investment portfolio, and that's what they get paid for. But they're not showing you how to hey, how do I take 10% out of my practice income and channel it to my household? Nobody show them how to do that. And I was super surprised at that. I'm like, why aren't you guys doing this? It's like you have a gold mine of cash flow here, and no one, they're not doing it. So I think the mistake is working with an advisor who is not an expert in your field, or who works with other types of practice owners in your field. Industry specific advisor, I guess I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So, I know there's advisors that focus on working with dentists, and if I was going to work with somebody, I'd work with someone like that, because at least they work with other dentists and they see patterns and things that other dentists are facing.
Yeah, and it's very similar in the marketing world. If you're looking for a consultant or an agency that, caters specifically to dental versus someone who's outside of the industry, it's going to be, you're getting so much more out of someone who's been involved and has that experience, because they understand the nuances of a practice. They understand what, the perception of the patients have about certain procedures and the hangups. And so it just makes it that much easier and more effective in the long run.
Agreed. 100%, man.
Yeah. Well, Eric, I don't want to keep you here all day, but we'll definitely have you back. I'd love to do a follow-up on this, because I've got a couple more questions, but why don't let's call it for now. But I do want to ask you two more questions. One is, any last piece of advice or words? And then second, after that, how can people get in touch with you if they want to learn more?
Yeah, I think, 2020 was a, kick in the what for a lot of people. And, you just have to look at it and say, where am I right now? Number one, everyone's still alive, so I think you have to pat yourself on the back a little bit. It really tested your resolve. It tested your business systems. It tested your financial, any holes that you have financially. So use this as an example of, my gosh, I don't want to be in this condition ever again. When I'm faced with being shut down, because I think most dentists were shut down for 6 to 8 weeks or something like that.
Yep.
I want to be in a position where I'm totally prepared in my business and my household, so that I don't have to worry about what would happen if I did have to shut down for a longer period of time. So I would say take this opportunity to make sure that you get your financial house in order, so that you are totally prepared for anything that could come about. And again, that'll segue into, if you need help with that, then you can reach us at wealthfordentists.com, wealthfordentists.com. We have a lot of downloads. We have an ebook that you can download, and our website, you can just go to www.econologics.com. And again, we have a lot of resources there as well.
We'll have to link up that free ebook in the show notes to this episode, because it's always nice to have those resources. Well, that's so great. Well, Eric, I sure so appreciate your time. I've taken a bunch of notes. Here's my sheet. I've got all these handwritten notes, but there's so much gold in there. We'll definitely have to have you back. Appreciate being on the show.
Anytime, man.
Okay, we'll talk to you soon.
Okay, buddy. See ya.
See ya.
Did you enjoy this episode of the Dental Marketing Secrets Podcast? Head on over to iTunes to subscribe, rate, and leave a review. And for more proven marketing strategies to grow your practice, visit practicerocket.net.